Welcome into the HQ post-game show delivered by Papa John's. New grilled buffalo chicken papadilla for just $6. Joe Musso alongside Ryan Wilson here to wrap up a wild card Saturday and a nightcap that featured a pair of dueling quarterbacks with 41 playoff combined starts between them. Only thing is, they all belong to that man, Tom Brady. 5 times as many playoff wins as the Buccaneers franchise. Now at the helm, no Alex Smith. He was not cleared to play for this one. So it's going to be Taylor Heinicke getting his first career playoff start. Late first quarter, Bucs up 3-0 off the play action. Brady identifying an open wideout, and that man is Antonio Brown for the 36-yard score. It's his first postseason touchdown since the 2017 season with the Steelers. Later, more play action, 9-7 ball game. That is until Brady finds Chris Godwin for the 27-yard strike. Bucs up 15-7 after a failed 2-point conversion. Brady humming right along in the first half, 200-plus yards and 2 touchdowns through the air. But wait just a minute. 18-10 ball game. Taylor Heinicke evading the rush, taking off from the 4-yard line and getting in. Air Heinicke with the full extension. I mean, frame that one and put it on the wall because it's a moment in time for that young man. Chase Young says, that's my quarterback. Right there, get to know the name. Under 5 to play now. Washington trailing still, 28-16. After a Leonard Fournette touchdown, Washington looking for the answer. They get it. Heinicke on the money, an absolute dime to Steven Sims Jr. Heinicke left the game momentarily with some shoulder issues, but playing through it. Washington trailing 28-23. 2 minutes remaining, 4th and 21, last gasp for the football team. Heinicke again buying time, just chucking one downfield, a prayer. And that's it. Season over for Washington, but a valiant effort out of Taylor Heinicke. Everybody wants to shake number 12's hand, and that young man deserves a handshake in a big way. 31-23, your final in this one. Tom Brady, fantastic stuff at the age of 43. 22 of 40, 381 yards and 2 touchdowns, leading Tampa Bay into the divisional round. All right, let's take a look at that career playoff resume for Tom Brady. 31 career wins, his first now here with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The prior 30, you know it, coming with New England. Behind him, somebody named Joe Montana, and he's a ways away. 16 wins for Joe Cool, but Tom Brady in a league of his own and continuing to pile on top of records that he already owns. All right, so here's what it looks like on the NFC side of things. Saints and Bears, they hold the key to everything in the NFC. We reseed as we head to the divisional round. So if the Saints win on Saturday, Rams will play the Packers, Bucs will play the Saints. If the Bears pull off the upset, the Bears will make a move to Lambeau for that divisional rivalry renewed, and the Rams will play the Buccaneers. All right, let's get our guys involved. Ryan Wilson to my left. We got Scott Pioli and Bryant McFadden, Super Bowl champions in their own right. Gentlemen, this was an entertaining game to say the least. Both of these quarterbacks putting, I think, everything they had out there. Ryan, I'll go to you first here. Your headline reads what on the tail end of this odd result?
The football team may have found a quarterback. I don't want to go back to halftime, Joe, where I said there's absolutely no way that Washington could come back. Taylor Heinicke had other ideas in mind. Now, obviously, Tom Brady played a fantastic game, and we can't take anything away from him in what he did. But Taylor Heinicke single-handedly kept Washington in that game. We saw the highlight where he dove to the end zone, hit the pylon, went out with a shoulder injury a few series later. His shoulder was not moving. He came back, gritted it out, and was making play after play after play. You saw NFL players on Twitter in real time tweeting their support for Taylor Heinicke, who many of us didn't have any idea who he was a month ago. In fact, in the fall, he was back at ODU finishing his coursework, and it just goes to show you if you work hard and you're focused and you have good timing and you make the most of it, good things can happen to you. Again, this is about Tom Brady winning this playoff game for the Buccaneers, which is extremely important, but it's also about Heinicke and what he was able to do given that opportunity.
I was going to say, it takes a little something to steal a headline from Tom Terrific on the back end of a playoff win. Scott, we'll go your way next year. Your big takeaway from this one, Taylor Heinicke obviously earning the respect, but Tom Brady simply fantastic. Once again, you change the uniform, you change the helmet, it's the same Tom Brady.
Yeah, again, kudos to Taylor Heinicke. It was really exciting to watch tonight, and just a fun story. But again, we'll keep that in perspective. On the other side, Tom Brady had a very good game today. he didn't get as much cooperation from his receivers. A lot of drop balls today, a lot of passes that could have been completed. He should have been well over 400 yards. And I think some of those passes, if they were completed, this margin of win would have been greater, but it wasn't. To me, what I think is going to happen is they're going to enjoy the win just a little bit. Brady's going to go into the locker room. He's going to be happy but measured. And they cannot perform like this next weekend if they want to win in the divisional round. There were too many things. It looked like a team that was inexperienced and was just nervous. Chris Godwin, I just didn't expect to see the drops that he had. So hopefully this week was the week that allowed them to get the jitters out. Next week it'll look very different. But I'm going to tell you this. Tom Brady's going to wake up tomorrow and be steely focused on the next round, and he's going to make sure that all of his teammates are as well.
You know what, Scott, you came up with some real big-time points, and I think that's why we all should be really excited about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the chances to go deep in the playoffs, because offensively they didn't have their best effort. They still scored over 30 points. They had over 500 total yards throughout this ball game against a talented, star-studded defense, especially on the defensive line. So I think that is something that you could hang your hat on, because I don't expect to see all the wide receiver drops we saw from Tampa Bay, especially from a guy like Chris Godwin. I don't expect to see some issues when it comes to the offensive line play. Granted, they only surrendered around 3 sacks, but they didn't do a good enough job in keeping Tom Brady clean, at least for 3/4 of the ball game, because he had some people in his face, especially towards the end of the game, that made this thing a bit closer, to say the least. But I can tell you this much. The individual play that Tom Brady was able to display, this is something that I think you can't expect to see. We saw him play outstanding football towards the end of the regular season that carried over into tonight's ball game. And then outside of Tom Brady, right? Look at Leonard Fournette. I mean, for the first time in a Tampa Bay Buccaneers uniform, Leonard Fournette looked like the old Leonard Fournette from Jacksonville days years ago, when he was just running through defenses left and right. I mean, he filled in for Ronald Jones, but there's a good chance he could have a mainstay in that backfield based on how well he performed tonight. And he caught the ball well out of the backfield as well. So I think seeing some of the woes that Scott mentioned, and I definitely agree with Scott, they missed a lot of plays. They left a lot of plays out on the football field. But to be able to score 30+ points against this team and have over 500 yards total offense is something that you can look forward to seeing, especially if they continue to stay focused and stay dialed in.
B-Mac, and they did sack Tom Brady 3 times tonight, but one thing that I think was really interesting about this game, people are going to look at the end box score and see no catches for Rob Gronkowski today. However, I think it's really important that people look at the work that Rob Gronkowski did today. Again, the job that he did against Chase Young and helping keep Tom clean on the edge. Brady wasn't clean all night. To your point, B-Mac, 100% correct. But the job that Rob Gronkowski did that is not going to show up in the stat sheet, blocking and helping protection as an extra protector, was actually outstanding tonight.
Yeah, fantastic stuff there in the run game, in pass pro. And Washington takes away Gronkowski. Brady, being the great that he is, he finds Cam Brate regularly throughout this game, so still getting the tight ends involved. B-Mac, you've been a part of a number of these Super Bowl runs, and week to week, you got to wipe the slate clean. You got to get ready for the next one. As Tampa Bay is cleaning up some of those things, what's top of the list this week if they really do want to hoist the Jolly Roger on February 7th in their home stadium?
Well, number one, the drops. You can't have critical drops, especially against good teams, because those things could come back to haunt you. Number two, defensively, we saw some issues. We saw some loopholes from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. They played against a guy who lacked experience at the quarterback position, but because of their mishaps defensively, we're all talking about Heinecke, who could potentially be the quarterback for Washington going forward, because he played real good football. He exceeded the expectation that we all set for him, because we didn't know anything about him, especially playing in this type of ball game with the atmosphere, playoff environment. Meaning, I felt like they would suffocate him, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. They did not do that. So you got to look at that as something that they need to correct. They need to play better football, because regardless of what they will see going forward in the playoffs, not knowing exactly who the next matchup will be, they will play against a more experienced quarterback. They will play against a better quarterback. And because of the issues they had in trying to contain and slow down Heineke tonight, I mean, that's something that they need to correct, because if they want to have championship aspirations. It just can't be about Tom Brady and their offense. Their defense, they have to find a way to play lights out. They stopped the run tonight, but they knew they were going to see a one-dimensional attack, and they had no answer for the aerial attack coming from an inexperienced quarterback and Heineke.
B-Mac, that was the biggest issue for me, the defense. And they'll have Devin White back next week, it looks like, and that's great news for the middle of the defense alongside Lamonte David. And hopefully that will help remedy this issue. Todd Bowles, the defensive coordinator, will certainly scheme something up to help them, especially that young secondary, find ways to have success. On offense, we talked about Tom Brady playing really well because, again, at the beginning of the season, even through the midway point, we were concerned, at least I was, that Tom Brady wasn't clicking in that Bruce Arians / Byron Leftwich offense. The throws downfield weren't connecting. We saw them connect on Saturday night, and I think that's extremely important. We also talked about those 3 sacks. Alex Kappa, the offensive guard, didn't play today. Ted Larson, his replacement, had a tough night, and there's no other way to say it. They'll get Kappa back, it looks like. That'll be good news for the continuity along the offensive line and also for keeping Tom Brady upright because, as we know, when Tom Brady's upright, he's a lot better than when he's laying on his back.
Tom Brady now extending that long-standing record with 31 playoff wins. Scott Pioli closely watched and was responsible for a number of those wins as well. Scott, you talked about the standard that Tom Brady sets in front of his team, not just during the playoffs, but throughout the season. But playoffs specifically, what does that standard look like week to week as they do now get ready for an unknown opponent, at least for the next 24 hours?
Well, here's the thing, Joe. His standard is always the same. And again, I know you're asking for something. Is it different in the playoffs? I think he's just a little bit angrier, during his preparation. But the standard is always the same. His attention to detail and expectation for greatness, not just for everyone around him, but for himself, is unlike any player that I've ever been around. And again, I spent 27 years in the league, and I've been around a lot of great players with a lot of great preparation. His was to a level that was, again, it's really tough to describe. And when we saw him near the end of the first half, getting so upset with his receiver, that is his emotion. That's who he is. That's truly who he is. But if you could see sometimes how hard he is on himself, it's that way in the regular season, it's that way in the preseason, and it's that way in the playoffs. His standard of excellence and expectations for himself and those around him is really, really incredible.
Well, gentlemen, 3 of the 6 games are now in the books here on Super Wild Card Weekend. I'm looking for a statement here. Who made a big statement in your eyes today, B-Mac? Doesn't have to be from this specific game. As you took in these 3 games, it was a fantastic day for football fans across America and everywhere else. But as you're looking for a statement, something that really stood out to you here on Saturday, who really caught your eye?
The Rams. The Rams made a big-time statement for me, solely about their defense, right? Playing against curly-haired Russell Wilson, just basically neutralizing him in the entire Seahawks defense. The Rams defense, they're legit. And the success they had in the regular season has carried over into the playoffs. And technically, I don't want to say the Rams defense, they're so good, it doesn't really matter who the quarterback is, but kind of I want to say that, right? We saw Wolford start the ball game off. And then, of course, here comes Jared Goff, a guy who just had thumb surgery maybe 8-10 days ago, didn't really give you anything, but their defense provided the window of opportunity for the second straight week in a row. Their defense scored points, right? They had a safety and a touchdown against Arizona in a Game 7-like atmosphere last week to get into the playoffs. They won that ball game. Today against Seattle, they put points on the scoreboard. Once again, a touchdown, interception, return for a touchdown. I mean, their defense is playing lights out. As long as they stay healthy defensively, we saw Aaron Donald didn't finish the ball game, but he was standing on the sideline with his teammates at the end of the ball game. If he's able to get back into the lineup and be the terror he's been the entire season, we see what Jalen Ramsey is doing. I mean, they got an alpha dog on the defensive line. They got an alpha dog in the secondary, and these 2 guys complement each other so well. So the statement from me came from out west with the Los Angeles Rams. Their defense is the best defense that's currently still in the playoffs, and they're playing that way.
No doubt made a statement on Saturday. Bryant McFadden, Scott Pioli, Ryan Wilson, 5 Super Bowls among us. Just putting that out there. Thank you, gentlemen. For more, you can always get involved on the All Things Covered and Pick 6 podcast. Our team of podcasters getting the job done, bringing you all the latest. BMAC and P2. Some of the biggest names in all of sports joining them on All Things Covered, and the Pick Six guys breaking it down daily. Download and subscribe today. All right, time now for your winning ingredients delivered by Papa John's. New grilled buffalo chicken papadilla, just $6 today. Ryan Wilson, Bryant McFadden, I'm Joe Musso. B-Mac, we're going to go to you first here. Your winning ingredient here in this matchup between the Washington football team and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the win for the Bucs came out of what winning ingredient?
Captain America, Tom Brady, number 12, right? Number 1 in your heart. I mean, he played against an outstanding defense, a defense that has been suffocating in offenses, putting pressure on opposing quarterbacks, not allowing quarterbacks to get comfortable. Well, Tom Brady was comfortable. Yes, they sacked him 3 times. It didn't matter. Threw for 381 yards, 2 passing touchdowns. He was outstanding. His numbers should be better because we saw some critical drops from his pass catchers, but yet and still, Tom Brady tore this defense apart, left and right. I mean, Tom Brady's what, 42, 43 years old? In tonight's ball game, he looked like he was like 32 or 33 because he was phenomenal. He is my winning ingredient.
B-Mac, I'm right there with you. Tom Brady did it for me as well. There were concerns that Tom Brady wouldn't be the same Tom Brady we saw in New England because throughout the season, he was inconsistent. Part of it was in that new system with Bruce Arians and Byron Leftwich. Part of it was getting used to his new teammates. He had Antonio Brown join the team. They lost a bunch of football games, and then they got things turned around. Antonio Brown's now catching touchdowns each and every week. Tom Brady looks like the same Tom Brady we saw throughout that 20-year career in New England that led to 6 Super Bowls. He's throwing the deep ball accurately, and he's going to get all this stuff sorted out on offense where they were struggling. The defense is going to sort things out as well, and I think they're a real threat. We talked about Josh Allen being able to get over the playoff hump. He did that. Tom Brady, in his own way, got over the playoff hump with the Buccaneers on Saturday night, and I think that's a real shout-out to the rest of the NFC to be on high alert because Tom Brady is still the Tom Brady we saw in New England.
Ryan Wilson, Bryant McFadden offering their winning ingredients, and it's pretty simple. You add the ingredient of Tom Brady to any pot, and that pot's going to simmer. Tom terrific now with 31 playoff wins in 42 playoff starts. Not bad for the age of 43. More HQ on the way next.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.